Brothers and sisters, hello and welcome to another 10-minute church. I hope this finds you well. So today is Wednesday and it's late afternoon, and now we've come back to celebrating Mass again in the churches. I'm sort of getting back into a slightly different routine, and so it was only early afternoon that I suddenly thought, I know there's something else I need to do today. Well, what is it? And it suddenly sort of dawned on me that normally on a Wednesday I record a 10-minute church. So I was sort of hurriedly thinking, I wonder what the Lord is asking me to speak about. So I thought, more than anything, why don't I just say a little prayer and just step out in faith and see what happens. So it's good to be with you. It's good also to be able to come back to celebrate public masses, and it's good to see quite a few people coming to those. And we look forward to perhaps over the next few weeks welcoming more and more people back. Today over at St Dunstan's we had 40 or so in the church. Everyone appropriately socially distanced, and it was lovely just to be able to celebrate together. I had to get used to the new routine. So, for example, before Mass, I'm very careful to see how many people are in the church. I then carefully wash my hands and sanitize them, and then just gently count out the hosts for the Mass. And then today, because I was so busy focused on that, I brought the hosts out and put them onto the table by the side of the altar, and then came out to celebrate Mass, and I forgot my glasses. So, I came to the altar and went to say the entrance antiphon, and realised I didn't have my glasses with me, so I had to go back into the sacristy again. So my routine is slightly upset by what's going on. So I will slowly get used to this, I'm sure. Today in the Gospel we have the lovely, wonderful story of Jesus calling the disciples. And I've always found it difficult to name the 12 disciples off. I always miss one of them out. I don't know about you. What are you like? You're probably better than I am. You can probably name them all off by heart very easily. But let's give it a go together, shall we? So we've got Simon, also known as Peter, better known as Peter. And then there's the other Simon, the Zealot. There's Andrew and John, and then there's two Jameses, James son of Zebedee and James the son of Alphaeus, Thomas, Philip, Bartholomew, Thaddeus, also known as Jude. Who else could there be? Oh, Matthew, of course. How could we forget? And then Judas Iscariot. Well, those are the 12 disciples, and of course after Judas betrays Jesus latterly, the 12 is made up when the lot falls to Matthias after the death and resurrection of Jesus. But I was reflecting today with the parishioners at St Dunstan's on a little homily that was given at St John's Seminary when I was a seminarian by a priest there, Father Michael Woodgate. And Father Michael is a very holy man. He's an elderly man. I don't know where he is now. I imagine he is still ministering. He may have gone to God. I don't know. He was probably well into his late 70s when I was a seminarian. But a very holy man, a wise man, but he had a very dry sense of humour. And he came and he always preached very lovely homilies. And he talked one day about the calling of the disciples, and he referred to them as being a sort of rather motley crew. And he said they're a bit like Dad's army, sort of there all sort of with the best of intentions, but not quite knowing what to do. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. That was his kind of view of the disciples. Jesus had chosen them. He'd called them, chosen them, and was sending them out, but they wouldn't always know kind of what was going on. They wouldn't always know exactly who that person they were following really is. And yet they were faithful to him. Okay, in the end, some of them ran away, but after the outpouring of the Spirit, there they were as men sent to all the corners of the earth, because they were doing something which was brought up in the psalm. The response to the psalm today is constantly seek the face of the Lord. Constantly seek the face of the Lord. And I think that's something the disciples were trying to do. They were doing their best to constantly seek the face of the Lord, even though they weren't even sure at times who the Lord really was, who Jesus was. And it's something that we're called to do. Within the diocese now, we have this document which we use a lot called A Future Full of Hope. And it comes from those words of Jeremiah, about the Lord is with us and for us, and he's intimately interested in our lives, and he's calling us and wants to show us that we have a future full of hope. And that document came about following a consultation many years ago in the diocese, probably 12, 13 years ago perhaps, called Seeking the Face of Christ. And the bishop sought us all as parishes to seek closely the face of Christ within our parishes, within our wider communities, and to come up with suggestions about who we are as the people of God in this diocese. And from that we received then a document called Called to Be a People of Hope. And then from that as well, we've then moved on further to another document, which is A Future Full of Hope. And in the Future Full of Hope, we've had a year of mission, a year of prayer, and we're in the year of communion. But it all came about from this call to seek the face of Christ, constantly seek the face of the Lord. And that is our calling, brothers and sisters. We're still in this time of challenge, but whether we're in a time of challenge or whether we're in rosier times, that is always our calling, to seek the face of the Lord. But perhaps it is in those more difficult times that we feel that we want to find his face evermore, to recognize that the Lord is there in suffering, that the Lord is there with us in times of challenge. In these difficult times, we're called to step out in faith even more, and to praise God, and to be joyful, and to be filled with peace, and to be filled with hope, and to recognize his love in our hearts, and to see him in the face of others. Constantly seek the face of the Lord. That is our calling. So as we ponder, as you go away perhaps and read the gospel today about the calling of the disciples, and you think about that motley crew, a bit like Dad's army, think of these men who were seeking the face of the Lord, and who after the death and resurrection of Jesus, with the Spirit poured out upon them, went to the ends of the earth to proclaim the good news. And remember how the Spirit has been poured out upon you, so that you can keep seeking the face of the Lord, and so that you can recognize him deep within your hearts, and in the lives and in the faces of others around you, and in the situations that you find yourselves in. Let us be a people always, constantly seeking the face of the Lord, a people full of hope. So hopefully we'll see you soon. And again, if you have any concerns about coming back to Mass or want anything clarified, give me a call or send me an email. But come back in your own time. But be assured you will always receive a great welcome. And when you come back to Mass as well, you will receive a great welcome from the Lord, who will come to meet you again in his word and in Holy Communion. So God bless you, brothers and sisters, and I will see and speak to you very soon. Bye now.